Hello and welcome back to yet another canal adventure. In the last vlog we stopped for lunch and some tinkering. After lunch, and after tightening our fan belt, we set off cruising again. As we were going along, Paul mentioned that I hadn't set up the camera on the tripod and that I hadn't sorted out the microphones. I grabbed the camera and mounted it onto a selfie stick. I decided to experiment with different camera angles as we cruised along. The audio on this vlog will appear a little muted. We've used a noise reduction setting as the strength of the wind and the associated microphone white noise is just that little bit, or very, annoying. Whilst editing this vlog, I have realised that I should have cleaned the lens of the camera after the rain earlier that morning. I didn't, but I will try to remember to do so in future.
It's squinty at the moment as well.
Huh?
Wrinkly and squinty. The glasses on.
Did you want your glasses?
I'm surprised at how much wind there is when you're actually facing this way. But sat down there, you're facing
You.
backwards.
Yeah. Would you like?
Something like that with the glasses on.
Yep. Put your glasses on more often.
I mentioned a little bit earlier that we had tightened our fan belt. That's the one that goes between the engine and what I'm going to refer to as the starter battery alternator. That's all that we could try right now without other tools to hand, so that's our step one. However, it's evident from the lack of voltage that is being displayed on the panels on the boat, a slack belt was not the issue.
Squinting now.
We have two alternators, the starter battery one and the leisure battery alternator. We're now thinking that the leisure battery alternator may be the one with the fault. We basically need to try to better understand how the electronics on this narrowboat work. As with anything in the narrowboating world, nothing is ever simple as it first appears. I think it's fair to say that we're learning how things work when they stop doing what they're meant to. Or, put another way, one fault at a time. I do like this camera angle, although it does make our boat look very slim and much longer than it really is. Our boat is only 60 foot long, or in new money that's about 18 metres, or about 22 paces if you're measuring out a possible mooring spot. In the comments of a recent vlog we were asked what camera we are using. Just so you know, it's an Insta360 X3 camera, so it's capturing footage from all around us. For this particular shot, the camera is mounted on an extended selfie stick that is resting on my left shoulder and is extended towards the back end of the boat. The camera makes the selfie stick invisible because of where it is mounted between the two lenses. We've reached what was Limpert Junction, which is where the Newport Pagnell branch of the Grand Union Canal would have been. As we pass the building on our right, you can see a change in the materials used for the canal edge. That bit there has been filled in. The canal branch and towpath would have run through those new houses' gardens. The first proposal for the Newport Pagnell branch canal was made in 1793, the same year that the Grand Junction Canal route was authorised by an Act of Parliament. However, the committee for the main canal declined to build it. In January 1813, a meeting was held at the Swan Inn in Newport Pagnell, which proposed building a canal or the construction of a railway along a similar route. The Grand Junction Canal Committee again refused to construct the branch canal, and the idea of a railway was dropped. In August 1813, in yet another meeting, it was decided that applying for an Act of Parliament to authorise the branch canal was the only option left. An application was made. In June 1814, the Newport Pagnell Canal Act 1814 was finally granted. The route was surveyed by Benjamin Bevan and work began in early 1815. The canal took 2 years to build. Its length was 1.25 miles. It was built to the same dimension specifications of the Northampton branch, which is 72 foot long by 7 foot wide. The branch ran through 7 locks from Great Linford to Newport Pagnell. There were plans to extend the branch to Olney and then connect to the River Great Ouse by building a link to Bedford. Sadly, no action was taken on these plans. In 1862, the canal was sold to the Newport Pagnell Railway, an Act of Parliament authorising the takeover. The Newport Pagnell Railway Act 1863 was obtained and the canal closed in August 1864. The railway opened to passengers in 1867 but was a victim of the beaching cuts and closed to passengers in 1964 and to goods traffic in 1967. Part of the trackbed today provides a section of the Milton Keynes Redway system, a network of shared paths that serves the Milton Keynes urban area.
I see what you mean.
These buildings, set in the beautiful surroundings of Great Linford Manor Park, are almshouses or charitable housing that were built in the 1700s. The striking central feature of a multi-storied building is in fact Great Linford's original schoolhouse, also known as Pritchard's Charity School. Early records show that 20 boys were taught here through the 17 and 1800s. Amy and Wes of Boat Time fame spent some time wandering around the park in one of their vlogs earlier in 2024.
Red wine was there last time. Yeah. It's like reserved mooring.
The moorings on the left-hand side of the canal are operated by the Parks Trust. Great Linford Manor Park is a unique park in Milton Keynes that boasts a rich history dating back to Saxon's times, featuring many points of interest such as the impressive water and wilderness gardens that were initially laid out to provide a beautiful setting for the manor house, which is now privately owned.
Ah, that's
marina.
Just past the Black Horse pub at Great Linford and under the Wolverton Road Bridge, which is bridge number 76 on the Grand Union Canal, some new houses have been built next to the site of the old Stantonbury Wharf.
I've been under your land. You bought that house.
We're entering the Bradwell area of Milton Keynes and are keen to see how much progress has been made to, we've called, the Tracy Island House, which is being constructed where Bradwell Quarry buildings and wharf once were. There's still a little way to go before we actually get there, so I'm wafting the camera around a little bit more to see what kind of shots I can take. Yes, we are being extremely nosy as we pass this house, and I do apologise if you're the owner, but we find it fascinating. We love the fact that there's a little boathouse and the architectural design of the building behind, with the wall of glass overlooking the canal and beyond. It's truly a unique property. For us, it's a landmark on the canal that we look forward to cruising past just to see the progress that's been made on it. Hiding behind the trees, set a little way back from the canal, is Bradwell Windmill. Built around 1805 close to the newly opened Grand Junction Canal, it was used to mill barley and wheat. The windmill has been restored and is once again a working mill. To allow the construction of a section of Grafton Street, a new aqueduct was required to replace the existing 8 arches embankment carrying the Grand Union Canal over Loughton Brook. In 1991, the Grafton Street Aqueduct was the first to be built on the Grand Union Canal for over 50 years. It carries a footpath on either side, is 4 times longer than the Iron Trunk Aqueduct at Cosgrove, and was opened to boat traffic in March 1991. "1,700 tons of concrete, along with 121 miles of steel cable, were used for its construction. The aqueduct is 125 metres long. It took a year to build, costing £4.5 million. This was one of Milton Keynes' most complicated civil engineering projects. We've travelled this part of the canal before, and I stopped recording. We're aiming to moor up in the Wolverton area, somewhere not too far from the railway station, so that we can travel back to our home marina and pick up the car. We'll be doing that tomorrow. We're going to park the car up at Cosgrove and then walk back to the boat, as we want to move the boat up to Cosgrove in the next few days. Just in case you were wondering, we have not resolved the battery charging issues, but we spend a little bit of time whilst moored up in Wolverton investigating further. Welcome back. We've parked the car not too far from the barley mow at Cosgrove, walked through the horse tunnel, under the canal, up the steps, past the services, past the lock, past the visitor moorings, and we've reached the Iron Trunk Aqueduct. Cosgrove Aqueduct is a navigable cast iron trough aqueduct that carries the Grand Union Canal over the River Great Ouse on the borders between Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire. The present structure was built in 1811 to replace a previous brick structure that had failed. When the present structure was erected, it was known as the Iron Trunk. The structure has 2 cast iron trough spans with a single central masonry pier. The abutments either side were constructed in masonry but were refaced in brick during the 20th century. The iron trough is 15 feet wide and 6 foot 6 inches deep, with a total length of 101 feet. The surface water of the canal is about 40 feet above the surface of the river. Cast iron trunk sections were cast at the Ketley foundry in Coalbrookdale. They were transported to Cosgrove by the canal itself and assembled and erected at site. The towpath is cantilevered from one side, as at Pontysillet. and supported by diagonal struts. Because of its importance, being the world's first wide canal aqueduct, the National Transport Trust has commemorated this as a historically important site to transport heritage in the UK by marking it with this red wheel plaque.